Hello there, my friend, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we are taking a look at a mid-level game of Beyond All Reason that was recently played right here on Flats and Forests. A map esteemed for its, well, open flat areas and its many dense forests. It's got a couple of cool geothermal vents as well. It's definitely a map that takes a lot of skill to play, so I'm excited to see what some of these top-notch commanders can bring out to the field in today. Spawning as the red team leader, a commander that we've all definitely seen around. A commander that shows up quite often in the Brightworks community around the time whenever we do those live streams. A commander, of course, that goes by the name of Jamakis. Jamakis clocking in at 45 open skill here and going to be showing us exactly what he's got. Now, on the other side of the map, spawning with a name that actively seeks to demonetize me, it's a commander that I'm going to say goes ahead and goes by the name of Zalayan. Yeah, Zalayan here. The Blue Cortex commander going to be playing in the bottom left corner, and from now on the rest of this match called Zalayan or the Blue Com. Now, before we go any further, I just needed to take a second to offer you guys an opportunity. Yeah, there's a special event going on this weekend, and in case you'd like to sign up, there's going to be a whole battery of extra links to go click down below. Essentially, the Omega Series Bar Tournament is having their qualifiers this weekend, so if you want to play some 5v5 pro-level games, it's definitely a good opportunity to jump in. I say pro-level, anybody's more than welcome to sign up, though, so go register a team if you're willing to throw your hat into the ring with some of the best of the best. It's going to be a really fun event. I hope to see a whole bunch of you out there. Like I said, again, just check down below in the description section. There'll be a whole section dedicated to the links there for you to click and go join up there. I believe there's a Discord. There's also a sign-up sheet. A whole bunch of really cool stuff. So, anyway, without further ado, we're about ready to get into this match. Dogwood is open. Apparently, the Seafoam Green Commander going to be sending out a couple of these Armada Rovers. The Light Scout vehicle here, 31 metal and 370 energy, and blisteringly fast, going to be making their way across the map right here. The Cyan Commander as well, looks like Twitterbird, is going to be sending a couple of ticks out. Very good to see. And, of course, we have the Red and Pink Commander sending ticks out as well. Now, on maps this wide open, on maps where typically there's big wide open areas to contest rather than specific singular metal extractors that are very valuable, typically Armada has the slightest of advantage because of the fact that they can go bots as well as, or they can go for those ticks as well as a bunch of res bots to eat up all the trees right here. So not surprised to see this many bots despite this being a big flat open map. Now, oftentimes we do see a lot of vehicle transitions here. On a map like this, building a bunch of vehicles to push forward into enemy bases can be quite beneficial. Obviously, in fact, there you go. You can see the vehicle lab already queued up right here by the Hot Pink Commander. It's going to be Tolero trying to step forward and set up that frontline economy before even building anything in the back line. We've got a awfully long queue right here, but eventually it ends with a vehicle lab on the front. What I was saying, though, is that basically with the one advantage that you get from those medium tanks is, as we always see, the fact that they're just so difficult to kill by the time they get to a base. Now, on a map like this, you have plenty of time to kill them before they get to the base. So it's a little bit of not a catch-22, but it's a little bit of a situation where the tanks are really the only thing that can even make it to the base, because all the rest of the units, there's way more than usual amount of time before they actually make it into the backline and need to be dealt with. Pawns and Ticks mopping up the front line here nicely from Zombie, and going to be keeping some of these green forces out of here, and Hexu forced to pull the grunts backwards right now. And you can see, if we just zoom out a second, you can see the rush distance is just ginormous on this map. Really everything except for some of the fastest of the fast units, things like grunts, things like ticks, things like pawns, things like rovers and rascals surely included in that mix. Really the only things that can get across the map in a timely enough manner that they're going to have much of an effect at all. And indeed, a couple of those pesky ticks do make it into the backline. LLT has been set up here, and I think that's a wise decision from the Pink Commander, because, of course, using these LLTs for defense is much more APM efficient than going for instance, a bunch of units microed around all over the place. We do have the Brown Commander sending some forces backwards to try and intercept this, but it's always a little bit of a trick trying to figure out exactly where those enemy ticks are going, and if you even have the opportunity to catch them. Yeah. Centurion's going to be waddling their way forward from the front line here for the Red Commander. Not a greedy start, it's an aggressive start. It's definitely a heavy metal sink. You can see 270 metal apiece means we burn through more than half of the metal that we start with here in the front. Just going ahead and building these two units, if they go down, it's going to be a really tragic situation. Jamakis needs to keep these units alive, but also needs to keep scaling the economy. Looks like we're going to go for an E-storage here. Okay. Feels a little bit early for an E-storage, but I guess it does help, especially if you're planning on going for a big E-converter economy. Those E-storages are really what you need in order to make sure that those are getting efficient trades. Nice sniper right here. Oh, citizen's arrest from the Khan bot. 4 HP remaining. A single blast more would have killed it. But this hero in the backline for Tolero manages to shut down the tick that was aggressing forward and killing these metal extractors. It's a little play, but it feels wonderful. The Hot Pink Commander is definitely whooping and cheering right now with joy over the fact that that Khan was able to win that fight. Very quiet, very subtle fight it was, but an important one nonetheless. Nice engagement right here for the Yellow Commander. That's going to be Reetsweet taking a decent trade right there. A whole bunch of rovers, pardon me. I always get the two confused. Moving forward right now, and they do manage to snipe a mech. That's quite nice. Will they be able to find any more purchase? They do see the Khan over here. Yeah, looking for damage against the Hot Pink Commander specifically, but it does look like the Grunts are in position. Yeah, nicely done. Grunts in position. Whoa, comm trade right here. Looks like, oh, not a comm trade at all. That's a comm snipe right now. Oh my goodness. Just like that, the Pink Commander has gone down. The Centurion were handed over. I'm not entirely sure. Or maybe they just produced their own Centurion. Either way, that is a dead commander right now. Bruh, cries out Jamakis in exasperation here. Going to have to now vie for control over this wreckage here. Definitely a deviation from the game plan. Yeah, you can see the red Resbot moving forward to try and reclaim this wreck, trying to make the best of a bad situation by using that metal at the very least to fund some frontline units. In certain circumstances, and this is one such circumstance, losing this comm on the front line, it can actually be a weird kind of advantage for the other team. Yeah, and what the reason for that, of course, is because that metal gets recycled and put into the economy of that team, right? So in this case, the red team is going to eat up all this metal, and it means that suddenly there's going to be an extra 1,000 or so metal worth of troops on the front line, and that can be a big difference. Yellow Commander Dog One is, or pardon me, Seafoam Green Commander Dog One is open and Reetsweet both engaging each other here, but you can see that single grunt triggering the flanking bonus means Dog One is open is left at 28% HP, while Reetsweet still has a massive 65. You do have to be careful though, as soon as that advantage flips and the units no longer are there to support you. Oh, Vehicle Lab on the front line does go down here. That's expensive. Dog One is open in a lot of trouble though. Boom goes the Seafoam Green Commander, and an excellent pick right there for those two red heroes. Tolero and Reetsweet going to be happy to eat up all that metal right there left on the field after they can clean up all of this aggression. The Green Commander doing a wonderful job of supporting the northern side as well as sending units through to the southern side to continue applying pressure. That's Evangelion going ahead and sending those troops forward every so chance that they can get. Reetsweet very thin in the armor plating department right now. 25% HP does not leave much room for error. And falling as that tank does get a couple of shots off. D-gun does finally connect. Yeah, we're going to have to be very careful here. We don't want to D-gun the wreckage. Oh, nicely done. Parking on top of the wreckage, so it's super, super inconvenient here. Reetsweet in a load of trouble. The blitz to finish the job, and that's another commander down right there on the front line. Nicely done by the Green and Seafoam Green commanders, who managed to blow up that comm, essentially baiting their dead ally, their dead commander ally, in order to go ahead and kill another one. Hexu now moving in to reclaim all that juicy reclaim. That's going to be a healthy green economy. Centurion on the front line. Now, Centurion do have a hard time pushing into LLTs just because of the fact that they're so slow and they don't have enough range to outrange them, so it really is a battle of attrition. If you have the Resbots or the commander to repair, oftentimes the Centurion will come out on top. But when engaging into a massive concave like this, it can be really, really difficult to decide whether that's an efficient fight or not. Not to mention, I do believe that it was Zombie who actually reclaimed the vast majority of that wreckage from the dead comm on the front here. It means, of course, that the Brown Commander is going to be the one with more forces to spare, and indeed, we do have quite a lot of blitzes on the front. If we had a way to reclaim all these, I think it would be even better. Maybe buying a Resbot from an ally wouldn't be the worst idea. Love this call out right here from Jamakis, though. Excellent teamwork saying, hey, there's a big open lane right here. Why don't you go ahead and send those forces through? Now, this is an excellent read, but obviously the Brown Commander doesn't have any indication of this. That's just spectator vision only. Hexu with 2.5 thousand metal is correct indeed. Blitz is being repaired right here. Hexu, yeah, getting low in HP. Down to just 20% HP at this point. Well, we're going to self-D the comm. Okay, Tolero. A little bit close for comfort. Manages to avoid the explosion, though, with 1%, now 2% HP remaining. The Hot Pink Commander in a dire way. Yeah, we need to be so careful right now. The forces are moving in. They smell blood in the water, knowing that Commander must be pretty close to death. They're gonna latch onto the lab right here. It's a beneficial sacrifice to keep Tolero's commander alive. Gonna go ahead and cloak it on the front and just keep it still while the Resbot eats up all of that juicy metal. Again, it's not the end of the world. If we can manage to go ahead and get all this metal extracted here from the front line, it really doesn't have to be the end of the world. All this metal that goes down in units on the front can be resurrected or reclaimed, and that just helps the economy. But the aggression is so high right here, we need some sort of massive response. Red Commander went down here as well, and I do believe it's due in large part to these Janus tanks, which have quite a bit of experience behind them, usually indicating a dead commander of experience. We have a T2 lab up and running already for the Red Commander. Jamaica is going to be pumping out some of those T2 units, going ahead and stepping up the game into a T2 situation. Losing the front line, but losing it slowly, and that's really what we're hoping for here, is basically to just prolong the inevitable and eventually make our way into a T2 situation. Rocket Spider is going to be quite good against these T1 vehicles, of course, but you could also go for Gunslinger. One of the very few situations where Gunslinger can find a lot of value against the T1 vehicles, and you're bound to see plenty of T1 vehicles on this map. This map is especially conducive to Gunslingers for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is that. The other being that they're relatively quick. They're not the fastest unit in the book by any measure, but they are relatively fast. And that, of course, means that sometimes you can use them in situations where otherwise slower units wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity for you. What are we paying for? Oh, we're paying for T2 in the backline right here. It looks like the Lavender Commander has paid Twitterbird. I'm not sure what for. Oh, there's a T2 lab coming up right here. I see. Okay. Twitterbird with the forward T2 lab. Obviously a powerful strategy. Oh, and look at that. The Orange Commander Ural has also gone for the forward T2 lab. Okay. Not the end of the world, and obviously just means those units are going to hit the front line a little bit quicker, but it does put you at a little bit of a risk because there's only that much more distance between you and the enemy. If they manage to break your line, they could kill that very sensitive, very sensitive economy very easily. Here we go. Rocket Spider's finally firing away right here. I don't believe they have vision. They need their radar vision right now. Yeah, there's no radar detection right here. Is actually a big problem. Jamaica needs to get a radar bot up and running and out there on the front line because these Rocket Spiders are having a really hard time launching their missiles away at full speed. When launched at full range, these Rocket Spiders can be really, really dangerous, but when they're moving up against an army that they just can't see, things can tend to go a little bit awkward. Just good old-fashioned medium tanks and Janus, though, heading towards the southern side. And this little base right here, this puny base of the Brown Commanders, not going to hold up well under the strain of all these medium tanks. Really, the Janus are the medium tank killer here. Their impulse missiles stun the tanks, which allow the other... they stun the medium tanks, allowing friendly medium tanks to connect better against them. There's another commander going down over here. My goodness, it's a bloodbath. Tolero's commander going down on the front lines right here. This was the comm that was already very low HP, has now been jumped upon by a whole bunch of blitzes. It's been blitzed, you might even say, as these Gauss tanks project themselves forward at overwhelming speed, shall we say. Avoiding using the word blitz to describe the blitz. Challenge level impossible. Medium tanks firing away at each other now, but there's a whole swarm of units moving in, and this is a really, really painful situation. Yeah, we've got the T1 units here, and there we go. Finally, the welder's going to be providing the vision these Rocket Spiders actually need. The Rocket Spider is going to be more than effective enough to tear down all of this T1 static defense. So I think our eyes need to be glued on these medium tanks to see exactly how much damage they can do. Ticks right here providing a lot of flanking bonus for those LLTs on the defense, and with the with the Ticks also getting underfoot the pawns right here, I think it'll be more than sufficient to defense, but it does obviously take some time, right? This map is just so big that it takes forever for these units to actually get into position. Shuri's AFK move command. Yeah, it's a tricky situation managing a whole bunch of shurikens because you have to keep them all essentially latched onto their target, but you have to make sure that you're also getting the most value out of them. T1 static defense is surviving for now. Jamaica's worried more about saving his teammate than pushing the front line, which is 100% fair. Looks like a big old bombing run has come across the map here, and it looks like they've connected with some of these wind turbines and metal extractors in the back here. Always nice to see that. E-converters popping as well means, of course, that with the E-conversion down, there's going to be a little bit less metal available. Reedsweet calling the resign command. Bombers headed across the map. Massive support from the teammates, though, means that this is recoverable. The Hot Pink Commander need only produce a couple of Resbots in order to reclaim a whole bunch of this metal. Go ahead and use it to step up to a T2 economy. Maybe ask for a T2 Constructor from a teammate. This should all be well and good. There's no reason why this isn't recoverable right here for the Hot Pink Commander. We've still got more than enough space right here to rebuild the laboratory. The Brown Commander in a much worse off way, going to be rebuilding from the backline here. Getting those T2 mexes up and running, though, is, well, it'll happen eventually. Bombers largely shot down right here by the AA flak trucks from SEC. But there was a emergency air lab set up here from the yellow and the red commanders to make sure that they have some kind of a defense. Blitz is continuing to press across the map. We need to see a response. This is where the map comes to a dangerous point. Suddenly you find yourself in a situation where there's just units everywhere and it's impossible to keep everything completely clean. Blitz is in the back line. No micro on these Blitz tanks. Yeah, they need to pop that build power. There they go. Finally popping the build turrets. Oh, and just like that, the yellow commander leaves the game. Knocked out of the game via morale win. It's going to be the Hot Pink Commander Tolero that actually manages to, or is in charge of, rather, eating up all that take command. Bombers coming across right here. Loads of flamethrower turrets doing a great job of defending this front line. One of the best parts about the flamethrower turrets is, of course, that they do a little bit of AoE. They also do immense damage, so it's worth noting just how brutal these are against these Blitz tanks right here. You can see just how effective they really are. Shutting down several of those Blitz tanks right here. Oh, I like the Shuriken. Yeah. Use the Shuriken in combination with the static defenses. Probably the most efficient static defenses you're ever going to get. Yeah, flamethrower turrets definitely making their money's worth here. I keep wanting to zoom away, but I'm captivated by the power of the flamethrower turret here. Nicely done. Red Commander still just holding his own. Yeah, it looks like Jamakis has gone ahead and gone for a full-blown T2 transition. Just going ahead and stepping up the T2 eco into a full-blown APHIS. Ready to step up the economy. Making a couple of T2 units to just hold the T1, but not necessarily aggress any further. And then going ahead and stepping into, yeah, that proper late-game economy. This tells me that Jamakis is ready to fight the long battle. Heavy tanks on the front line here for the Tan Commander are going to be largely recyclable if we manage to get the forces on front to do so. Tiger tanks, one of their specialities is just, of course, that they're relatively cheap and relatively dense. They have a lot of armor plating, and they don't cost a lot to put on the battlefield. It means that you can have a very sturdy force for a relatively low price tag, which is otherwise a really difficult thing to afford. Sort of the Cortex speciality is just making a lot of units and making them really, really tough. Medium tanks to stop this horde right here, and we do have welders, which are going to be perfect for shutting down the ticks and the pawns and all that sort of stuff. Bizarrely efficient, ridiculously efficient, you might even say. They're one of the most efficient anti-spam tools out there. APHIS 78 and 79% complete. Front line's in a whole bunch of trouble right now. We'll get into the action real close. Up close and personal. I know you guys love these cinema shots. Fiends pyromaniacally, there we go. Pyromaniacally storming across the battlefield. There's a new term for you. There's a new caster term for you. To describe something that moves in a pyromaniacal manner. The Fiend may be the perfect specimen with its flamethrower pack and its little riot shield, trying to keep itself safe. I don't think these benefit, by the way, the same way that, for instance, some of the shielded Legion units do. I think that is an entirely graphic shield that they wear. I think it doesn't actually do much to reduce damage from any sources. Worth specifying because there are a couple of units that have shields and also use them, which is distinctly advantageous in a lot of different areas. Pushing fortified defenses, one area I can imagine it being very, very useful to have a shield that absorbs the first couple of shots of damage. Allows you to breach past the defenses and eventually overwhelm your opponent. The T2 have been largely overwhelmed at this point, but we do have a massive swarm of pawns coming out now. Welders being pumped out in the front lines as well, and it looks like the Red Commander is just looking to put a bunch of bots on the field. Trying to make sure that there's constantly a face of red presence on the map, not necessarily maintaining one, actually. We've taken these steps to increase the eco. Oh, tick in the back line. Again, it's the tick here and the pawn there. It's the units that manage to sneak by that do the most damage. Mid-dead soon, by the way, is the call-out, is the assessment that the Red Commander gives. Not an altogether incorrect one, I would say. Beamer turrets trying their very best. Lovely stuff. Always love seeing beamer turrets in use. Struggling against the heavy tanks, which is to be expected, but certainly doing their very, very most to try and save the day here. Spybot detonated against the medium tanks will paralyze them for the time being. Big clash of the pawns. Nice explosion right there. Takes out a lot of the blue ones, though. Now the red army marches forward. They need to focus these tanks. There we go. Little bit of a lack of focus right here from the red army, but there's a lot to micro all at the same time, so it's understandable. The horde of butlers marching out to reclaim all this as well. T1 medium tanks faring not so well against the T2 Tiger tanks. Doing slightly more damage, firing slightly faster, and having quite a bit more HP. The Tiger tank is just better all around for the metal cost. Always epic to see those in action. Hey, there we go. The powder blue commander does fall right now. Meaning, of course, that the red team does have the, or the red commander does have the opportunity to push back into the advantage here. A couple of spy bots available. Always nice to keep those in your back pocket as well. You never know when you might need a spy bot or two. And the blue base is in a whole bunch of trouble. What a push on this southern side. Yeah, Ural managing to break the lines accompanying the tan and the maroon commanders. Pushing forward right now directly into Zalayan's base. The blue commander now responding with, well, the commander. Tiger tanks blasting this base apart. Oh no! Hardly any eco-scaling on the southern side without much energy in the tank. It means that a killer wind stall has shut down the entire operation. Wow. How brutal the wind is. The single turn of the wind blades. Suddenly, the entire map is thrown into disarray. Tremor firing away from long distance. Super annoying as well here. No justifiable way to defend against it. You essentially only can push into it or retreat from it. This is a killer push on the southern side right here. What a comeback story. The green forces have done a lovely job of running by the way. These are dangerous forces in the backline. A whole bunch of sprinters whittling away at the units over here, but largely this is wind turbines and solar panels. At this point in the game, fusion reactors and advanced fusion reactors are really the main production for energy. Means that this is really not altogether a very useful push unless it's targeting those structures. Tiger tanks marching forward right here into the friendly fire from those tremors is a little bit awkward. I think we continue the push right here and we win the game. This southern side looks mere moments away from collapse. Oh no. Zalayan forced to set up a backline here. The fusion reactor 17 seconds away, but it's 17 seconds I just don't think that they have. E-storages. Oh, a nice micro right there from the Maroon Commander. Kyril recognizing, hey, wait a minute, these are pretty explosive, aren't they? Going ahead and moving the units away so they don't die in the explosion before sending them forward to go finish the job, killing all the metal extractors. Lovely plays on the southern side here. The Sheldon Ball pumped out by the Lavender Commander is going to be great for whittling a lot of this down, but they have to contend with those tremors, which are going to constantly be firing. It is an awkward unit to engage against the Tremor because it is just constantly shelling you with well, projectiles, with plasma projectiles. Paralyzed units all over the place. We have more and more sprinters coming out of the lab right now from the Green Commander. A hefty economy, mostly based on wind turbines, pumping out units right here for Evangelion. Some Salamander tanks. Heavily resistant to EMP, but here being caught by a spy bot, which does have enough power to overwhelm their otherwise resistant anti-EMP systems. Disami, the purple commander right here, suddenly in a little bit of trouble. Uh-oh. The Pawn Wave marching forward. The shock forces here to take out the static defenses while the welders march in to clean everything else up. Big old bomber wave coming out here as well. We're going to produce a whole bunch of anti-air. Okay, so we've got the fighter plane production, which is always great. But of course, the anti-air bots are going to do nicely here as well. Quick reactions from the red commander might be enough to save some of this base. Oh, but not all of it. Bombers colliding with the APHIS, and boom goes the entire red base. The AA bot's not nearly enough to shut that down. My goodness. What an unfortunate situation, as now Marauder are pumped out of the orange laboratory on the southern side. The frontline orange laboratory. What a brutal, brutal way to close out that northern fight right there. Suddenly, all the energy is stripped, meaning the welders, the sharpshooters, the metal extractors, the everything and the anything else all shut down entirely. Jaguar lightning tanks with their backup battery reserves going to be at the very least potent enough to fire away their lightning cannons, but not necessarily at full strength. The green forces marching out of this laboratory in spam are going to be quite good here as well, slowly whittling down the forces on the front. Sumo's basically perfect for shutting this off, though. This match comes down to now the entire southern side. Who can manage to win this battle? Marauder firing away and taking down a whole bunch of those shuriken here as well. We need to see them jump on top of the Sheldon Ball. It really is the last remaining bastion of any kind of defense on the southern side. Red needs some solar panels. We do have some advanced solar panels handed over. Okay, it's better than nothing. At the very least, the welders are going to be able to fire. Oh, do we have a fusion reactor pumping out energy here? Maybe. Maybe. Oh, yeah, there we go. A cloaked fusion reactor on the front line right here, handed over to the red commander. Some constructors being handed out here. Oh, a laboratory and some build power. Lovely stuff for the red commander. Always love that when the team is paying attention and helping out. Very cool to see. Tiger tanks blasting away at this front line again. Welder's pretty good at engaging against tanks, actually. One of the main issues with fighting tanks is that most units that fight heavily armored units are going to deal damage to a single unit. Tanks tend to be spammed out in mass numbers, just like we see here right now. The welders have the unique advantage of being able to chain their lightning between different units, so sometimes in equal numbers that can be enough of an advantage to break through a line. Oftentimes it's enough. Sometimes you need a little bit more, though, and that's where the sharpshooters come into play. Sprinters here, by the way. Finishing off the base of the blue commander. The lavender commander. And all the rest. Razorback to hold the line. I like the Razorback's inclusion here. Obviously very powerful. This northern side has collapsed, though. Yeah. Collapsed entirely. The brown commander. Not producing any units here. Definitely a critical blunder. Yeah, overflowing thousands and thousands of metal right now. I bet we could take a look at the statistics here. You can pause and see, but yeah, we're metal accessing, metal sharing quite a bit right now, the brown commander is. Means, of course, that suddenly this base is overwhelmed because no units, no defenses. Okay. It's a bit of a shame whenever that happens, but it is one of the key aspects of Bar, is just making sure you build stuff. Razorbacks on the front doing wonderfully against all this grunt spam. Struggling a bit against the Sumos, though. There's definitely a bit of a cut above what the Razorbacks are normally accustomed to blasting to splinters. There we go. Finally, the Sheldons are mostly cleaned up here, and the the heavy tanks, pardon me, are marching forward. Rolling forward, more like. Tiger tank rolling out. Tan tanks moving towards the base here of the Lavender Commander. It's now or never here for the red team. They need to sweep through the southern side because their northern side is collapsing. Medium tanks have just about devastated every single ounce of production that was available over here on the northern side. Either we send units northward to try and deal with all this, or we send units southward to try and race the enemy team. It's one or the other, and right now it feels like the red team is a little bit split about what to do. Trying to rebuild in the backline here, obviously a difficult task. Shurikens. An excellently shaped band-aid here to help this front line recover. Pitbull doing a great job of dismantling those tanks, and the Shurikens, of course, aiding in that process quite a bunch. Shutting down a whole lot of that aggression. That was thousands and thousands of metal sent across the map here, so as long as it's reclaimed by the red team, you can still maintain an advantage, but it is tricky to do so when more and more units are constantly streaming in. Meanwhile, the base of the Seafoam Green Commander dying to T3, T2 composition. Definitely a tricky position to be in. Razorbacks here. Going to be enough to clear away those shurikens, which is always cool to see. Technically one of the units that they can hit. It's one of those things that I feel like they should add, is a little button down here to prioritize air versus prioritize ground, just for the units that can. I feel like Banishers would be another unit that would benefit greatly from having that little smidgen of micro available. Just prioritize whatever tag air units have. is air, is fly, is flying unit, whatever that tag is. Just have a button that switches between targets air versus doesn't targets air. Or give air a big target priority bonus. I don't know. I only know partially how it works behind the scenes, like 3/5 of exactly, maybe 3/10 of how it works. Yeah, I don't want to give myself too much credit. But, you know, I imagine it's possible. The bar devs are pretty creative. I've met this community. I've interacted with most of it. Shiva marching forward, having a grand old time tearing apart this LLT forest. Without any reinforcements. How about we do have reinforcements? Yeah, Razorback's moving out now. The Thor is going to be quite good against the Razorback here. It's sort of the perfect counter. We were trying to get that EMP missile to connect. That was a nice idea. Trying to paralyze that enemy Razorback before sending troops in. But I think at this point we can go ahead and send troops in semi-willy-nilly. We can afford to send them across the map here in droves. Sumo's doing a great job of blasting down these demons, but demons doing a great job of blasting down the sumos. Oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely a worse trade for the sumos right there. Is thousands of metal worth of those T2 super armored trash cans get burned to a crisp by the dual demon firepower. Kind of making them shoot each other though, which is nice. Yeah. Demon's taking a little bit of friendly fire damage there. Pun not intended. EMP missiles failing to connect right here. The Thor having a hard time deciding where to go right now. Only one commander remains right here for the blue team. Means that they're likely not going to risk it de-gunning units on the front. Means it's probably safe to send those T3 in. That's the kind of high-level analysis that's really difficult to make in-game, though. The Air Force is being pumped out of the laboratory here. We've actually got a T1, a T2 Air, a T1, and a T2 Bot, and now a T3 experimental entry coming up right now. Tolero, the man of many hats, wearing a front line, a back line, and a midline hat all at once, producing units, producing eco, producing basically anything that's possible. Big bundle of rascals parked right outside the defensive zone right here for the red commander. Always a little bit awkward when that happens. Spy bots connecting against the Karganeth and Shiva over here. Always cool to see as well. Would love to see a couple of Shuriken attached to those just to make sure that they remain paralyzed. You know what? I think we were too slow in the draw here. Yeah, we had the Thor, we had the Razorbacks, we had the pawns to assist. All the units were in place to push through this line, but now suddenly the Orange Commander doesn't seem to have it anymore. There's sharpshooters to blast down the Razorbacks and chip away at those Thors here as well. I believe it's about 2% the sharpshooters are able to do to the Thor every time that they fire. We're in a really rough way on this southern side here. At the very least, the T2 Constructor is moving forward to claim a whole bunch of that metal. I hope we're scaling the economy in the backline. It looks like we sure are. Another Aphish just coming online right here for the Red Commander. And just like that, ooh, and the nuclear option has been selected. Nuclear missile is away right now, and the Green Commanders, I believe, are the targets. No anti-nuke is fired, as far as I can see here. Suddenly, one very big boom is all it takes to shut down an entire team's worth of play. Boom goes the nuclear missile right in the middle of the base of the Green Commander, obliterating the entire production facility, eradicating the energy production, and demolishing any hope the Green Commander had of putting out more and more of those T3 units. Now the Dark Green Commander, the only one remaining with any sort of anti-T3 defense. The Sharpshooters trying their very best to shut down the Razorbacks and the Marauder and all the rest of it. But the Thor still marches onwards. That Super Terminator tank, the experimental Terminator tank, firing its EMP missiles at whatever it can, trying to paralyze as many of these Sharpshooters as it can. Not connecting with many of them, but really any of them is better than none. Suddenly the Razorbacks are handed over here to the Green Commander, who is the only one with the energy to fire him, at least on this southern side. Dog 1 is open, calls the vote, and the blue team is finally pushed back, with Karganeth encroaching on the base right here, EMP bombers or EMP planes in the air to shut them down, and a bombing wave headed directly towards the pink base. We were right on the verge of collapse, but the red team managed to pull together, banding their forces to grasp a victory in this game beyond all reason. What a back and forth match, an absolute spectacle. Thanks a ton for watching, and I sure hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond No Reason. Don't forget to check out the signups, by the way, down below in the description for the Omega Series event. It's going to be a blast. See you there, and I'll see you in the very next cast. Peace out, everybody.